Unit 2, Basic Concept of Probability. We are now on session 2, Relative Frequency. Now, by the end of this session, we should be able to describe the conditions which warrant the use of relative frequency, determine the frequency of past occurrences of the event of interest, and determine the total number of trials of the experiment. And we should be able to calculate probabilities using relative frequency approach. Let's set the ball rolling. Relative frequency. When we talk about relative frequency, what does it mean? Relative frequency of an event is defined as the number of times that event occurs during experimental trials divided by the total number of trials made to the number of what? Times that particular event that we are interested in our experiment occurs divided by the total number of experiments we conducted before getting that. Let's continue with an example. Example 1. A coin is tossed 10 times as the outcome of each toss is recorded as shown below. So you can see the trials 1, 2, 3 up to 10. So the first outcome is H, T, 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 H, T, H, 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 H. Where the H means head being observed and the T means tail being observed. So what's the question? What is the relative frequency of obtaining head after the experiment? And B, what is the relative frequency of obtaining head after each trial? So these are two different questions. So we're going to look at the relative frequency for the head after the end of the experiment, and we're going to look at the relative frequency for each experimental trial. Now the total number of trials we have is 10. That's 10 tosses. Now from our table, we realize that the number of times we observe head is 6 out of the 10 trials. Thus the relative frequency will be 10 out of 6 or 0.6. Just straightforward and easy. But then the B part, the relative frequency for each trial. Picking the first trial, we observe head. And please remember, our interest is head. We're interested in getting a head. So in the first trial, we just have only one trial and we got a head, one head. So our relative frequency will be 1 divided by 1. In the second trial, we have a tail. So far in the 2 trials, we have only one head. Out of how many trials? Out of 2 trials. So our relative frequency will be 1 out of 2. That is 0.5. Now, coming to the third trial. The third trial, we still observe a tail. Sorry, we still observe a tail. And we have 3 trials. And how many heads so far? Still 1 tail. So that could give us 1/3 as our relative frequency, because our interest is in head. And it continues like that till we go to the 10th trial. You got it. Very simple and easy. Let's move on to more examples. Example 2. A machine makes plastic cups. An inspector checks 100 cups and finds that 80 are acceptable and 20 are not. Another question. What is the probability that the next cup will be acceptable? B. During the day, 100,000 cups are made. Approximately, how many are likely to be acceptable? And C. If 200 cups are unacceptable the next day, approximately, how many have been made altogether? Quite an interesting question, right? Let's look at the solution. Now, we have 80 out of 100 being acceptable. So the probability of acceptable cups will be 80 out of 100. That will give us 0.8. Now the B, we're told that 100,000 calves were made. What's the probability of we observing an acceptable one? Remember that the probability of acceptable calf is 8 on 10 or 0.8. So if 100,000 calves were made, how many will be acceptable? That is multiplying the relative frequency times the number of trials. The number of trials is the number of calves being made. That's 100,000. So 8 over 10 multiplying 100,000, and that will give us 80,000. The C part is the interesting one, right? Yes. We're told about the number, we should find the number of calves. If we find out that after a production, 200 of them are unacceptable. Now, for us to get that 200, let it represent X to be the number of calves made. You know, the probability of unacceptable calves will be 0.2. So multiplying the relative frequency, that's unacceptable calf, by the number of calves made will give us the total number of unacceptable calves. But in this case, we are giving the total number of unacceptable calves. So how many calves were made to get before getting 200 as unacceptable? So what it means is that we need to multiply the 0.2 by the number of calves made, that is the X, and later continue to find X, that's the total number of calves produced. That giving us the 1,000 calves. That's X equal to 200 divided by 0.2. I've given us 1,000 calves. So when 1,000 calves are made, 200 will be unacceptable. I hope you enjoyed the lesson, right? Thank you for watching. Let's look at to the next session. Bye.